We begin with the unprecedented development from Washington, D.C., where U.S. President Donald Trump unveiled his much-anticipated global trade tariffs. Declaring what Trump called America's economic independence from the country's friends and foes, the president hit against alleged exploitation of the country's industries. He said America had been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far.
Hello, Americans. This is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. Going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal.
Announcing the reciprocal tariffs, the U.S. president said he was imposing only half the tariffs which the top U.S. trade partners levy on Washington's exports. The reciprocal discounted tariffs went far beyond what many economists had expected. Now, Chinese exports to the United States were the worst hit, with Trump slapping a whopping 54% total tariffs on China. Vietnam, the Southeast Asian economic power spot, has also been hit with a whopping 46% U.S. tariffs. Trump, like he had long promised, pulled the tariff trigger on American allies and partners as well. Among them, Taiwan has been hit with 32% tariffs. Indian exports to the U.S. have been hit with 27% tariffs. South Korean exports will face 26% tariffs, followed by Japan with 24%. While the 27-nation European Union has been hit with 20% tariffs. Trump also announced the implementation of a 25% tariffs on the U.S. automobile imports. While the U.S. president claimed that this move will spur auto manufacturing within the country, analysts say it will shoot up new car prices. The 25% duty applies to all cars assembled outside the U.S. and will cover more than $460 billion worth of U.S. vehicle and vehicle parts imports. The automobile tariffs go into effect immediately. Additionally, the 25% tariff will also apply to imported auto parts, adding to the cost of cars assembled within the U.S., as well as auto repairs. The tariffs on auto parts will go into effect starting the 3rd of May. The Trump administration has exempted cars and automobile parts imported from Mexico and Canada from these tariffs. But despite that, the move is set to raise car prices in the United States, as most cars rolling on the U.S. roads contain components made abroad. President Trump also unveiled what he called a baseline tariff, which is the minimum tariff imposed on all U.S. trade partners. This minimum baseline tariff has been set at 10% and will go into effect starting the 5th of April. Some countries, identified by the experts as Russia, Iran, and North Korea, won't be under the purview of this 10% baseline tariffs, and that's because they are already under a heavy volley of U.S. sanctions for allegedly driving various conflicts around the world.
At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart, and that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating.
The tariff announcement has sent unprecedented ripples through the markets worldwide, as stocks tumble due to bigger-than-expected Trump tariffs. With a sea of red in the global markets, the U.S. index of S&P 500 futures slumped over 3%. Asian markets also fell sharply, with benchmark indices in Japan, Hong Kong, South Korea, and India recording sharp declines. Meanwhile, gold prices hit a record high of $3,161 as investors sought safe investments amid declining stock market futures. U.S. President Trump blamed his predecessor Joe Biden's policies for creating conditions due to which he has been forced to levy the tariffs. Now, Trump also praised Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and late Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. But keeping his mutual sense of respect for these leaders aside, the US president went on to announce tariffs on both Indian and Japanese imports.
But such horrendous imbalances have devastated our industrial base and put our national security at risk. I don't blame these other countries at all for this calamity. I blame former presidents and past leaders who weren't doing their job. They let it happen, and they let it happen to an extent that nobody can even believe.
Trump's tariff announcement has sent massive ripples through the global economy. While inciting calls for retaliation from wealthy European nations, but the developing world and the global south seems to be set to tread a cautious path of negotiations with the Trump administration. The full impact of these measures on the global scene will be realized in the days to come, and we will keep you updated on all of that.
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
I love India.
Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India, what we saw in Kashmir.
How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Bluntly, Iran, maybe Russia too.
Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
Not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.